moments that I think are stupid, but you can't win them all. Thanos sacrifices Gamora to obtain the Soul Stone. Cameo from Red Skull. He's been chilling out, learning how to levitate, wearing the Emperor's clothes, probably stole them actually, and became the Guardian and knows about the Infinity Stones now, apparently. A very interesting scene. We all saw it coming. I think the casual cinema viewer would probably see that Gamora was there for a reason. And when he starts crying and she starts mocking him, it's like, he's behind you. It's pantomime, really, but it was a powerful moment in that it showed that he's not completely devoid of emotion. He just understands the sacrifice that it's going to take to achieve the goal that he set out to achieve. But anyway, back to the Battle of Wakanda, the Battle of Titan, both of them happening simultaneously. Again, Phantom Menace style, got no problems with that. I just think that it's interesting that of the two battles, I much preferred the Battle of Titan because it's superheroes fighting superheroes where they just go, look guys, just make it as cool as possible. Doctor Strange, multiply, use your whip thing, use your teleportation. Spider-Man, use your flips and your jumps. Star-Lord, use all of your gadgets and gizmos. Thanos, use your Infinity Gauntlet. Planet crack. Almost harkening back to Green Lantern First Flight, where he uses 2 planets to crush the yellow power battery. One of the greatest feats of power usage I've ever seen in comics. Just magnificent. And Thanos emulates that a little bit. Doesn't move the whole planet. Uses the Power Stone to crush it effectively, using a lot of the debris to throw the debris at the Avengers. Magnificent. Wonderful. And then finally, the click. I go 2 ways on this one. I don't know how you feel about this. I would have liked for the click to not have been followed by anything. I think it should have been, no! Cut to black. No white, no nothing, just black. That's that. That's it. Let the audience be immersed in the action and the horror of the moment, and then be completely unaware of the ramifications. Completely unaware. Now, there's a couple of problems with this. I understand that we can't live in a perfect world. We can't always have what we want. I know you can't do this because, number one, you need to know who's going to be in the next film, because otherwise you're going to ruin it with the trailers anyway. You can't just have a trailer with a logo. That's what a poster's for, and even a poster would probably give it away. And secondly, you can't have the nod to Captain Marvel, and that's important because she's being touted as one of the most powerful heroes. I don't know if she exhibited anything that would lead me to believe that she's going to be able to take on Thanos at this point, or that any of her powers would be useful in timey-wimey, quantum leapy stuff. Interesting in the trailer, by the way, that even though she's shown with the Avengers, she's not shown in the suit, which for me tells you that that sequence is bullshit. It doesn't happen. It's not in the film because they've got people in there that don't look, they look like their past selves, basically. It looks like time remnants of other members of the team. She's not in there, Hulk's not there, even though Bruce Banner is with them. Yeah, that's a red herring. That's to throw it in there just to show, yeah, we know you know about the toys. Fine, we'll let you know that the suits are in the film at one point. We're just not going to tell you who's wearing them. We're just going to throw them in there with a cool walking through the hallway scene towards, you know, Apollo 13. And finally, the click. Let's just talk about that again. It was a nice moment. We'll talk about that in a second, but yeah, the fact that the click happens and it's a slow motion dick punch from there. Just one person after another person, after another person, after another person. The one that got me wasn't necessarily Peter. Peter was sad. Peter Parker floats away. It was Groot. That's the second time Groot's had to bite the dust. I know he didn't technically in Guardians of the Galaxy. I know technically he survived, but it was so heartbreaking watch Rocket just pine for his best friend. That sucked. But it just let you linger. So I understand why they left that in. That's a moment, and it's been memed to death since. So you can tell that it's had a good impact of sorts. But I think that it would have been nice to maybe see them just leave the audience completely in suspense. And maybe even, I don't know, just been clever with how you reveal who died and who not. I don't know. But I understand why they had to do it. I just, from a creative standpoint, would have preferred just to go click and leave it. Just let everyone's imaginations run rampant with the possibilities, because yes, it's sad seeing it, but you know the ramifications because they've told you over and over again what that click represents. So while it's interesting and while I understand the need to do it, I would have done it slightly differently. So let's talk about some of the nice touches of the film. How Thanos utilizes superior combat strategy as well as strength in his fight with the Hulk. So throughout the films you've seen that Hulk is Hulk smash, Hulk strongest there is, blah blah blah. And yet in his fight with Thanos, he's deconstructed within a few moves. Chop to the midsection, chop to the throat, midsection punch, gut punch, neck punch. All these other things to incapacitate the Hulk. Doesn't make him shrink back into Banner, but beats the holy hell out of him. Just a nice little thing to show that he might not be as strong as the Hulk. He might not be, but you see it in the UFC all the time. The strongest fighter isn't necessarily the best fighter. A good example of this would be Francis Ngannou versus Stipe Miocic. I would argue that Ngannou is leagues a stronger puncher than Ngannou is leagues a stronger puncher than Stipe Miocic, but Stipe Miocic is a much better balanced UFC fighter and has the knowledge, he has the experience, he has the other abilities that would help compensate for his lack of overwhelming strength. And in the film, they highlight this really, really well, I thought. So kudos to them there. Rocket, Groot and Drax are comic relief, but in the right amount. I feel like sometimes Marvel rely too heavily on the wink, nudge moment, all those awkward exchanges, or there's characters that can do that. Those three, for instance, have comedy in the right amounts. Drax, because he's unironic about the fact that he's not stupid, he's just literal with everything. So he's staring at a blaster in the face, Iron Man's blaster, saying, "Go ahead, I can take it." He's not being an idiot there, he's not being stupid. He genuinely thinks he can take that shot to the face even though he can't. He's just immensely proud and immensely too tough for his own good. Groot, especially now in his teenage incarnation and child incarnation, is just right for it because you can put him in situations that accentuate how ridiculous he is, but also what a useful member of the team he can be. And Rocket, obviously, just because he's the foul-mouthed one. He's the one that can get away with doing all the stuff that's reprehensible, but we love him for it, really. Another nice touch, though, is how the foreshadowing between Stark, Strange, and Thanos and their confrontation. So as we've touched on, Stark and Thanos knowing each other, but previous to that, Strange going forward in time. This is the big thing, this is the big theory, this is why it's timey-wimey. Going forward in time to review all possible futures and there only one outcome. Saying up until that point, I will not sacrifice the time stone for you or for anybody. And yet, if you spare his life, I will give you the time stone. There's obviously something in that. We just don't know what it is. We don't know what Strange saw, and we don't know exactly how that's going to play into it. My theory is that because of the fact that he's utilizing the time stone to do that, and because quite clearly, as he lets it go, the time stone glows. Now it doesn't do that unless it's being utilized, and Strange is quite clearly fixating and focused on it, and he has a mastery of that artifact that he didn't use in the film for some reason to utilize the stone for his advantage before giving it to Thanos, who is kind of trepidatious at one point, saying, "Oh, I'm not sure you were doing there, but you know, I do need these stones," and gets the power. I love that. I love the fact that that's so subtle and so nuanced. And again, on another watch, you'll watch that bit and go, you clever bastard, but you don't know right now. It might be nothing at all, but it's nice foreshadowing. The Thanos will return thing, because it's usually utilized for the hero of the piece. Whoever will return. Well, Thanos is coming back, and he's coming back to probably fuck up some more shit, who knows. The subversion of expectation of who lives and dies, leaving the original Avengers, allowing them the final film to bid their farewell. Yeah, we had a pool at my work at the time of who's going to live and who's going to die. And I've got to tell you, I got them all wrong. I was trying to think of partnerships that they could forge, and I thought that they were going to sacrifice one Captain America or Iron Man just to really sell the gravity. They went the opposite. All those people that you really love and they've built you up and really got into grips. I love that Doctor Strange. Oh, Black Panther, so cool. Oh, Scarlet Witch, so powerful. Vision, love him. All dead. All of them.
Oh my God!
A great subversion of expectation, because it wasn't what I don't think anyone was expecting, because I thought that they would want to save some of the rub for some of the new characters. Whereas they've gone the opposite direction, and in hindsight makes perfect sense. We're going to give this last film to the original Avengers, because these guys are going to have a whole new generation of films to show their stuff. A whole new adventure, a whole new threat to worry about, to take the lead in rather than follow the original Avengers, which makes perfect sense. Now this film is all about wrapping up all of the storylines from the original films and trying to give satisfying character resolutions to all of the characters you've been following for 10 years in a 2.5 to 3 hour spectacular against the most formidable threat the galaxy has ever seen. Mwah! Mwah! Beautiful, absolutely wonderful. Now let's get on to the annoying shite, shall we? How useless Strange was against the Squidward dude, and yet provides a sterner challenge to Thanos' power with 4 Infinity Stones. What the f*** was that all about? Doctor Strange goes up against Dormammu! I'm here to bargain! Okay, fine. We get that you can't overpower him. He's an interdimensional deity of sorts. You can't overpower him. You have to trick him. Okay, where was any of that thought process in taking on this dude? From what I can tell, his powers are telekinesis. He can move shit with his mind. Great. Can't you summon things from other astral planes? Do you need your hands for that? Is that really what you need? He was just so useless, and yet against Thanos with 4 Infinity Stones. 4! Not 2, not 1 that took down Thor and Hulk. 4! 4 Infinity Stones, and yet stands toe-to-toe with Thanos. Ultimately loses, I will concede that point. But Squidward gave him a much harder battle. He loses. So how does that work exactly? And more to the point, why does he never use the Time Stone at any point during their battle? There's moments where Thanos is fixated on Tony Stark or other members of the team. Use your shit and use the Time Stone, freeze it and shankity shank, pull the thing off, or use your thing to cut his arm off like you use the other guys. Like, what? None of that stuff credit came in. He brought you face to face with the master of the mystic arts. But not clearly, you can use the thing to use the future to see all these other inevitabilities, but you can't use any one of them to, it's just stupid. How useless Vision is, given he's one of the most powerful Avengers again. The Infinity Stones, the most powerful entities in the galaxy. Well, a character with an Infinity Stone must be immensely powerful. No! Gets shanked through the chest and is not seen pretty much throughout the rest of the film. He pushes another guy out of the window at one point. It seems like on both of those examples, they were just, it's lazy. Neither hero put up a fight that is befitting of their status as a hero. And it just served to put them in jeopardy for jeopardy's sake, for someone else to come and save them. It necessitated Tony Stark going on to the ship to go to Titan. I get that, so that they could have their confrontation with Thanos one-on-one, which was a great set piece. But again, is like, yeah, but how could Thanos have 4 Infinity Stones and still get his ass kicked for a little bit? Versus Vision, versus 2 people with spears. 2 people with spears. Yes, they're the children of Thanos, so they've got some kind of latent ability that's impressive, whatever. He has an Infinity Stone. How does that not trump whatever they have? Just dumb. How the Guardians of the Galaxy basically fuck the entire galaxy over in no less than 3 points of the movie. God damn the Guardians of the Galaxy in this film. So, Star-Lord punches Thanos in the face when he shouldn't do. Gamora gives up the Soul Stone when she shouldn't. And Quill and the Infinite going after Thanos in the first place. They doom the galaxy on no longer than 3 occasions. how are they heroes at this point? How are they, like, if they do get revived, they should be tried, because that's messed up. Like, just give it 30 seconds. It's dumb. Again, I understand from a story perspective why they had the motivations to do the things they did at the time, but it goes against everything that's, like Gamora saying, I would rather you shoot me than give up the Soul Stone, but Thanos is torturing my sister. She's not dying, he's just torturing her. I would much rather not hear her scream anymore than give up the third stone that will then kill everybody anyway. It's oxymoronic and it's stupid. How the relationship between Vision and Scarlet Witch feels forced with the previous minute. We've talked about that, we don't need to talk about that anymore. So, questions left unanswered. How do they kick off the first film given the time jumps seen previously and how much ground they need to cover in this film? I've seen a lot of theories that the trailers only cover things that happen in the first 20 minutes of the film, which makes sense because maybe that's where the suits came in, maybe that's the first failed attempt to save everybody, and then there's a giant time jump. I'm hearing from other people that there's two attempts. There's the first attempt at the beginning of the film, which is like a reaction to the fact of what's happened, and they rally and they try, but they fail, and they ultimately get smacked back down. Or the machine that they're using or the plan they have just doesn't come to fruition for whatever reason. I like that. I like the fact that they're going to face some adversity. It's not just, we've got one shot, and this is the only shot we've got, and they pull it off. It's like, well, no, we had one shot and we failed. Well, we have to learn to move on now. And that's why it's crazy that someone else is coming up to them saying, no, we can't give up. We have to try again. We have to try something different. And everyone's like, look, it's over. It's done. Thanos won. We have to move on now. That conflict there, that would be nice. That would help fill some time. It would mean that it's not all about conflict. It's about, again, from a narrative perspective, moving on. In a way, moving on the movie audience from these characters to the next, looking forward to the future, not hanging on the past, because invariably the next generation is going to be judged against this one. So the idea that they're utilizing the narrative to say, look, it's going to be different, things are going to change, things aren't going to be the way they used to be, but that doesn't make it bad or worse, and it's not wrong to yearn for the past, but we need to press on, we need to move forward. I like that idea. How does Thanos factor into the film? Given that he succeeded in his mission and seemingly retired to become a potato farmer. Who knows? He's featured on the poster, albeit shrouded, which makes him look more villainous than in the first film. I don't know. I would imagine he's going to want to intercede in any attempts to try and reverse what he did. I just don't know how that's going to be. I would imagine the fact that the Infinity Gauntlet has suffered significant damage, that he's going to be significantly depowered as a result. I don't think he'll be the threat that he was in the first film, which means that the playing field will be evened a significant amount, I think. If I had to put my hand on my heart, I don't think they're killing him in this film. I think they're going to nullify him as a threat, smack him down, and leave him to lick his wounds and maybe make a return in the next phase. Because I think he's too good a villain to throw away like that. To triumph over him isn't necessarily to kill him, it's to reverse what he did and the sacrifice that it's going to take to do that. How does the Infinity Gauntlet, or indeed the stones themselves, factor into saving everyone, and how are they dealt with going forward to avoid this kind of event happening again? Interesting. I thought of this one. I'm clever. Yeah! Bad girl. So, how do they factor in? Because I imagine they're going to be used in some form or fashion to reverse what happened. I get that they could probably do it via other means, again, timey-wimey stuff, I guess. But I would imagine that considering their power and considering 6 Avengers, 6 Infinity Stones, and considering the emphasis they put on in Guardians of the Galaxy that enough people can wield the power of 1 Infinity Stone, well, maybe enough willpower between 6 could wield all 6 to do the same thing. It's a possibility. I don't think it's very likely. I like the visual of that, especially it's a bit Power Rangers-ish. It's a bit Mighty Morphin, Power Stone, Soul Stone, Space Stone. You know what I mean. But it's an interesting visual and it's an interesting idea, but they're going to have to, because of course Vision has a Infinity Stone in his head. So do they find an alternate way of bringing him back and powering him? Does he use the Infinity Stone going forward and just become its guardian? Do they banish the Infinities? Do they destroy them? Do they find a way to eradicate them from existence? In which case, what happens to the aspects of space that they control? A lot of questions around that I think they'll probably banish them to a different realm. They'll scatter them as best they can, because I don't think, even though Vision, his stone was destroyed, I think that they're too powerful an entity to get rid of completely, but we'll see what happens. Who will live and who will die throughout the film, both in terms of surviving the click and who succumbed to it. So, in terms of who's going to die in the events of this film, and who's going to be brought back going forward, because it may be a case that everyone isn't brought back. It may be a case that not everyone survives this film. My theory is that Tony Stark in space dies. I don't think he's coming back. I think he's recording that because he isn't going to make it.
When I drift off, I will dream about you. It's always you.
The Tony Stark we see in the trailer in the suit, I think, is a past version. Same with Captain America. I think both of them are going to die trying. But those iterations of those characters are the ones that are going to go on the mission to stop everything. But you have to remember, you can't just get rid of the entirety of the old guard, even though they might not have signed film deals or anything. It doesn't serve any purpose to kill them all. But killing some of them certainly does. I think it ramps up the expectation of the next phase, and I think it sets the groundwork for someone else to step into their mantles and become the leader of the group, the funny one of the group, the stern one of the group, whatever. And finally, how do they wrap up the film to set up the next phase of films, and what do they do to set up the next threat to the entirety of the universe? I've seen people say the Skrulls, or whatever they're called, I don't know, are going to be the big thing. But we'll see. I think there's untapped potential with Galactus, frankly. I think the fact that he's an Eater of Worlds, albeit, again, when you compare destroying half of the living things of the universe versus that, yeah, not really comparable. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what, because I think, personally, the end credits of this film, the extra little thing isn't going to be some funny thing in a restaurant. It's going to be the next threat. Whatever it is, it's going to be, meanwhile, and then somewhere else out in the galaxy, something is going to be displayed that is going to make someone like me go, oh, and just lose their minds with the anticipation of how they're going to build up to that event in 10 years' time, or however long it is. There's everything to come, and what is amazing about this is that, despite what anyone says, this is the cinematic moment of our generation. I know that Star Wars has resurfaced. I know there's been Harry Potter. I know there's some people that think Twilight is a cinematic moment of our generation. And to those people I say, ha ha ha, I hope you get herpes. But we'll see in 10 years, 20 years time, but I genuinely feel that this is a seminal moment in culture for cinema. I'm struggling to find the words to put it, but this is huge. This is massive. This is the culmination of so many different hopes and dreams and fantasies realized on screen, that just the anticipation alone sets this film at an almost unrealistic bar of hype. And I really genuinely hope they can pull it off. So, can they? Who knows? I want to hear what you guys have to think. So please, leave your thoughts in the description below. What do you think is going to happen in the film? Who's going to live? Who's going to die? How are they going to resolve everything? Infinity Wars. What did you like? What did you hate? What did you want to see more of? What did you want to see less of? Is there anything that annoyed you? Is there any moment that blew your mind? And in terms of going forward, what are you excited about for the future? What do you hope for this franchise? So, as always, like, share, and subscribe. Check out some of my other content that I've been producing recently. I really hope you have. Take care of yourselves. Gear up for Gears of War. Well, if you want to play Gears of War, it's a decent game. But if I was going to be honest with you, I'd say to gear up for Avengers Endgame, which is out in a few weeks' time. I will be there watching it. I sure as hope you are too. Take care of yourselves. And I'll see you guys in the next episode of The Halcyon Show.